Hey sixth graders, don't forget the first 15 minutes of class, we spend that time working on Moby Max and our language lesson for the day. So if you have done that, awesome, keep watching the video. But if you have not done that yet, make sure you pause the video, log into Moby Max, and complete your language lesson for the day. So we're shifting our focus from fiction text to nonfiction text, and we began thinking about how nonfiction writing is different from fiction. And we started this by reading a nonfiction book called Bugs Up Close. Today I'm going to read another example of nonfiction. And as I read, I want you to think about other nonfiction topics that you might be interested in writing this year. This book is called Mysterious Disappearances. Like Bugs Up Close, this nonfiction text has a table of contents where it has specific parts of this book and their page numbers, so that way you can read specific information and find it quickly. Also, like Bugs Up Close, Mysterious Disappearances has a glossary where it will define words from the story, and it also has an index where we can find words and phrases and the page numbers where those words and phrases appear. This is called Without a Trace. Playing dead. Some people fake their own death or run away to escape from their past. They may want to fool the police, a gang, an assassin, the Secret Service, the IRS, which is the Internal Revenue Service, a nagging partner, so they disappear forever. In the time it takes you to read this page, someone will be reported missing. Hundreds of people around the world disappear every day. Many will turn up somewhere soon. Others might be found after a long time. Some will never be seen again. They vanish from the face of the earth forever. Or so it seems. Strange cases still confuse the experts. Where do the missing go? These mysteries have puzzled the world for years. What happens to the lost? Who are the victims? Most people who disappear have a reason. It could be one of the following. Perhaps they run away to start new lives. Perhaps they are unwell, need help, or forget who they are. Perhaps they are taken by other people. Kidnappings do happen. Sometimes they end in murder. Perhaps they get lost, go the wrong way, fall, or get stuck. It may take a long time for a search party to find them. Occasionally, a whole group of people vanishes. No reason or clues are left behind. Will we ever solve these mysteries of the disappeared? In 1975, Jackson Wright drove with his wife to New York City through the Lincoln Tunnel. He stopped the car to wipe the windshield. When he got back inside, his wife was gone. He had heard nothing. Martha Wright had simply disappeared, never to be seen again. It seems strange that people can be here one minute and gone the next. Can they just disappear, never to be seen again? It happened to a man named Gerald Potter in 1968. A passenger airplane was flying over Kankakee, Illinois to Dallas, Texas. It was a clear summer day. During the flight, Mrs. Potter saw her husband, Gerald, make his way to the back of the plane to use the bathroom. She never saw him again. After some time, she was asked to check if he was all right. When they looked, the bathroom was empty. He was nowhere on the plane. The rear door of the airplane was open slightly. This did not suck out the air from inside the plane, as it would in modern planes. That is because the cabin was not pressurized as it would be today. A chain for keeping the door shut was found on the floor. Had Gerald Potter bumped into the door and fallen out of the plane? To do this, he would have needed to turn a big door handle that was hard to move. No one saw or heard him fall. So what did happen to Gerald Potter? A long search was made along the airplane's flight path. His body was never found. The mystery remains to this day. One thing I want to point out about what we have read so far are these bold words. So on this page we have cabin and pressurized in bold print. That is because these are words that are going to be defined in the glossary. So in nonfiction text, words that are bolded are in the glossary. In this nonfiction book, they have the glossary at the bottom of the page. So here's our bolded word pressurized and then the definition at the bottom of the page in this book. So after reading some pages from Mysterious Disappearances, some questions that I want you to consider are on the screen. The first question I want us to discuss is what features on the pages help us know that our story was nonfiction? Nonfiction text features are the features that help a reader navigate a nonfiction text more easily. So if you think about our Mysterious Disappearances book, we had a table of contents, headings, bolded words, a glossary, captions, photographs, lots of illustrations, and then we also had an index. The second question I want to discuss is what interesting things did you hear about in the reading? The purpose of reading nonfiction is to learn about new topics. It exposes you to a wide range of real-life information. So when you read nonfiction or hear nonfiction stories, you should always be looking for interesting things that you learned. My third question is, what other mysteries about the world might you want to learn and write about this year? So if you are really interested in our story today, then I want you to brainstorm other mysteries that you might also want to write about. So in your language arts notebook, in your writing ideas section, or in your Google Drive, in your writing ideas folder, you could brainstorm and write a list of mysteries that you could write about. You could focus on disappearances like our story did. You could focus on aliens if you're interested in that, and outer space. You could focus on the wonders of the world or the lost city of Atlantis. Just come up with the list of mysteries that you would want to learn more about and then create stories about. After brainstorming a list of mysteries that you would want to write nonfiction stories about, I want you to work on my fourth question, which is, what other nonfiction topics might you want to learn and write about? Remember, our focus previously was on fiction stories, but now we're transitioning into nonfiction stories. So keep thinking of what topics that you're interested in and would want to write nonfiction stories about. You can add these topics or ideas in your language arts notebooks or in your Google Drive. Today I'm going to read one more nonfiction book called Question and Answers, Planet Earth. As I read this book, I want you to keep the following questions in mind. I want you to think about what you learned from the reading. I want you to notice how the author organizes and presents information. And then I want you to think about if you were to write a question and answer book about the topic you choose, what questions might you ask in your book? So this story is called Question and Answers, Planet Earth. Like our other nonfiction stories, this story also has a table of contents and index and answers. Since this is a question and answers book, the answers are actually at the back of the book. This chapter is called Earth's Formation. In the vastness of outer space lies a star system, or galaxy, known as the Milky Way. Inside this galaxy is our solar system, a bright star orbited by 9 planets. The planet that is third closest to this star, which we call the Sun, is a unique life-supporting planet called Earth. How did Earth form? The Sun was formed when a nebula, a vast cloud of gas and dust, shrank under the pull of gravity. Hot clouds of dust and gases spun around the newly formed Sun. When specks of this dust collided, lumps formed. Gravity pulled these lumps together, creating a large spinning, fiery ball. Heavy elements like iron sank to the center of the molten ball. Lighter metals and rocks rose to the surface of the ball, which cooled enough for a solid, hard shell to form. Gases escaped from the planet and formed an atmosphere with clouds. As rain fell, oceans were formed, which contained oxygen-producing plants. Over time, the planet became the one we live on today, but planet Earth continues to change. Like in some of our other nonfiction books, this book also has illustrations and captions and charts and graphs that contain more information. This book uses pictures and diagrams to help explain more information to the reader. This nonfiction book also has questions as its headings. So on this page, the heading asks, how long does Earth take to orbit the Sun? It takes 365.25 days, or 1 year, for Earth to complete its orbit around the Sun. At the same time, Earth spins on an axis that runs from the North Pole to the South Pole. It takes 24 hours, or 1 day, for the Earth to spin all the way around once on its axis. One thing that makes this nonfiction book unique is it has these quizzes throughout the story. So to make sure the reader is understanding the information, they have questions, and you can answer them and then find the answers in the back of the book. Questions and answers are one way to organize information in nonfiction books. Remember, the purpose of reading nonfiction books is to learn new information. So as I read our story, I wanted you to think about what you learned from the reading. So hopefully you learned something new about planets or about our solar system. In order to understand how authors write nonfiction, I wanted you to pay attention to how this author organized and presented information. So in this nonfiction text, we have headings, we have graphics, we have captions, we have various illustrations and diagrams to teach us information. We also had a table of contents, we have an index, glossary, and one unique thing that this author does to organize and present information is the use of asking questions and then writing answers. Remember, the purpose of reading these books aloud is to help us get ideas for our own writing as well. So I want you to think, if you were to write a question and answer book about the topic you choose, what questions might you ask in your book? So I want you to write questions about topics you're interested in your language arts notebook or in your Google Drive folder. Today, for independent writing time, you can come up with more questions about a nonfiction topic that interests you. You can continue adding to your nonfiction topics list of writing ideas for the future. You can work on a piece you started earlier, or you can start a new writing piece today.